Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jones Zone. I'm going to do a new series on senior care communities because those are such an enormous part of our business. It's such a need. So we're going to start off with our expert, Sammy Fox, who works for Capriana / Villagio. I was actually asking her about this. Capriana is located in the city of Brea, California, a really nice facility. It's near Whole Foods off of, let's say, what is that? Valencia and Imperial, I guess you could say. So, Sammy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I have been in the industry of senior living for almost 18 years now. I started out as a lifeguard in a senior living community during my college years and then kind of grew to love working with seniors. So now I work at a luxury senior living community called Capriana. We're in Brea in that La Floresta neighborhood there by the Whole Foods. And it's a really amazing place to work. We have residents of all ages, starting from 65. So 65 or better, we say. And Villagio is where I primarily do most of my work. I'm a marketing director there. And we specialize in dementia and Alzheimer's care.
Yeah, Capriana is such an elegant, very nice place. So those of you who are considering places, definitely visit them because that's a special one. So now, how does Capriana relate to Villagio?
So Capriana was built about 11 years ago. And it was built by the Gallagher family. They used to own the company Oakmont. And he was a construction builder and his wife was an interior designer. So you can really see that in our community. It's very beautiful. It's made for residents that maybe are independent or they need some assistance, some maybe medication management or shower assistance, things like that. So they all live in Capriana. Villagio is that next step for people. So it is a specific community, a standalone memory care for residents with a diagnosis of any kind of memory loss, like Alzheimer's or dementia.
So how's this process work? Is there an application required when applying to join the luxury senior living community of Capriana or Villagio?
Yeah, good question. So generally, when you're starting to look into senior living, you'll come to a place like Capriana and you'll schedule a tour with one of the marketers. So someone like me will get to know a little bit about you, what your needs are, what's important to you, and then we'll walk around the community and maybe see an apartment. Right now, Capriana is very fortunate to be 100% reserved and has a wait list. But you might like an apartment there and then you put your name on the wait list, or if one's available, you might put a deposit down, and then that triggers us in the next 90 days to help you move into the community.
Boy, the way things are going with the senior community population just exploding, might be a good idea for 30-year-olds to start getting on that wait list, huh?
Every so often we do it. Someone in their 50s starting to look for 30 years down the line,
Wow.
Yeah.
How long can it take to get into this luxury senior community? What's a typical wait?
Yeah, good question. So sometimes there is an apartment available and someone may move in very quickly, like within a month. And then other times it may take a year. So I have folks that we just had a couple move into Capriana and they were in our database for about 12 years. So they looked before the building was ever open. And then they said, yeah, maybe this for the future. And finally, it was time. Somebody, had a fall or something happened. And they're like, you know what? We need more eyes on us. We want to be in a community of people. It's getting harder to get around. Somebody doesn't drive anymore. And they made the move.
And how's that work? So someone who gets on a list and let's say they're not ready yet, right of refusal, as they say?
That's right. Yeah. So maybe the apartment they want is on the first floor and it's a 3-bedroom and it's facing the courtyard. And so anytime something opens, we can show them. And if they're not ready, they just move to the next.
What types of floor plans do you have? Do you have studios all the way to 3 bedrooms?
We do. There are studios in the community and they're sort of a hot commodity because they're priced a little different. They're month to month, like a traditional assisted living. And then we have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and we even have what we call casitas. So they're standalone homes with attached garages. And there are 4 of those on our campus.
I noticed those for the first time the other day when I was there. I thought, I didn't realize this. So you've got 4 standalone.
Yeah, and those are a hot commodity too. They built those before the building was built to showcase some of the floor plans. So people could put a wait list deposit down or a deposit down when the building was finished. And so those homes stand, and we have residents that live there who maybe are still driving and they want that garage space or they're not ready to downsize as much.
But there's only 4.
Yeah.
Are they the owner of those? How maybe you can touch on that. I wasn't going to talk about this so early into the podcast, but I piqued my interest.
Pricing, right? Yeah. Those price-wise are a little higher than the apartments within the community, but they work the same. Okay. So our residents in our studios, they do pay that month to month like you would at a traditional assisted living community. However, anything from a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or a casita has an entry fee. So that is what our residents pay when they move in.
What's the cost structure and what's included?
Yeah, good question. So the cost looks a little different. Every apartment is priced a little differently depending on where it is. So a lot like the real estate market. So for instance, a 1-bedroom with a 90% return rate entrance fee might look a little like $500,000 right now. A 3-bedroom with a 90% return rate might be closer to $1 million right now.
What's that mean in 90%? So let's say $1 million. What's that 90% return rate? What does that mean?
Yeah, there's a tiered option. There are a few different options when you move into Capriana, but if you want 90% back of your entry fee, so when a resident moves in to Capriana, they pay an entrance fee along with their monthly fee. And when they leave Capriana for any reason, whether they decide to move to South Carolina next to another daughter, or they need a higher level of care like memory care, or they pass, they or their trust gets back 90% of that entrance fee. And there are also 50% and 0% options. And so then the entrance fee goes down a little bit depending on what you choose.
So for more specific details, talk to Sandra.
Yes, please call us.
All right. How's the dining experience there? I get a lot of stories about dining in that. Oftentimes it seems as though that's part of the residents' favorite part.
Oh, yeah. So dining's really important because you think about it, you move to a community like this, it might be, as your mobility changes, the only restaurant you're going to often, right? And that's important. So our residents are very involved in the food at our community. There are dining committees. They meet. They tell you what they want. We've got a gentleman who's pushing for lobster rolls, then that's on the menu. Filet mignon, it's on the menu. And then it changes. So there are specials that change every day so that there's variety. Right now, poke bowls are really big at Capriana. So everyone's having a poke bowl. We have staff that come in that have their specialties. So we've had a chef in the past that was like very great at making pozole. A lot of our residents didn't even know about pozole, and now they love the soup because he's got a grandmother's recipe and he's bringing it to Capriana. So we take a lot of what the strengths of the staff are, and then we also the contribution of the residents and their requests.
Wow. Are there a lot of guests that ever eat there too?
Yeah.
Or is it strictly, okay.
Yeah. So residents' families or their friends can come. We hold events like we have Brea's Rotary meets at our community. So if they have like a Bible study that they're a part of and they want to invite them over, we can cater for that. We just had a big Mother's Day celebration. And so everybody's families come and they have brunch here at Capriana.
Wow. I love that place. It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
I just love being there. So what age or circumstances would one generally consider, is this an option? What are you seeing typically out there?
Yeah. So at Capriana, people are probably looking into this in their late 70s, really. I mean, everybody's in better shape. There's a lot of cures for some of the illnesses that we've seen. And so generally people are looking in their mid 70s and probably moving in their mid 70s or up to mid 80s. We have some residents, age is just a number. We have some residents over 100 years old that are still independently living at Capriana. And so they like to take advantage of the amenities like concierge driving that can drive them, to the movie theater, or, concierge services like maintenance, housekeeping, things like that. But they don't necessarily need help with care.
And then they have the option too. They can, I don't know if anybody else is thinking this, but they can leave at any time when they're at Capriana. It's not like...
Yeah, you're completely independent. We have some residents that are still working, so they can leave anytime they like. It's just kind of like think of a cruise ship on land. So we have a movie theater, we have a swimming pool, we have exercise classes and activities. There's a dining room and private dining rooms. I mean, everything is there for you, but a lot of our residents are still going out and about.
You have to be 65, is that?
65 or better, yes.
No younger. Did it used to be younger than that, or?
Maybe it used to be 60, but as far as I've been there, 65. We do make special arrangements. Like if somebody has a child with special needs or something, it's on a case-by-case basis. Or someone has an early diagnosis of Parkinson's or something, and then they do need the care help. They might be able to come in early.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. So It's primarily just senior care, though. You're not... Okay.
Right.
Now there's Capriana, which is for your, let's say, a slightly more self-sufficient, I guess, or I don't know, is there a description of that type of clientele?
More independent.
Yeah. And then you've got Villagio, which is more, tell us about Villagio. It's right next door. You're right there.
So you kind of think about Capriana as a continuum of care, and that includes Villagio. So residents may move into Capriana independently. they may need help, like medication management, or again, like shower assistance, escorting. They can continue to live at Capriana with that help. They can stay in their same apartment. They don't have to move to a different section of the community. They can stay right there. And then if they get a diagnosis of dementia, memory loss, then Villagio is their next step. So that's that continuum of care. So Villagio is a standalone memory care community. There's 2 floors. We have always about 55 residents there. Capriana always hovers around 100 residents with couples there. And so Villagio's made specifically for residents with a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, memory loss.
So it sounds to me it's pretty cool because you can cover all the way through. Well, God forbid you pass. I mean, basically, so your Villagio has the ability to basically take care of most 99% of situations. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of our residents, even at Capriana, if you don't get a diagnosis of dementia, you can live there through the end of your life. So we have a lot of connection with hospice. You can get that hospice or palliative care in our community. It's very easily done. Plenty of our residents are on hospice, and they can continue to live in that same apartment at Capriana or Villagio until the end of their life.
So how does Villagio's approach to memory care differ from traditional homes or assisted living facilities? Oh, you know what? I just told before the podcast started too. I thought it was interesting. Facilities, that's the F word. We don't say facilities.
That's right.
We use community, and we use community because that's what it is.
Right. Right. We are not a medical model, which you might find at like a skilled nursing or a hospital is a medical model in our industry, but we are a social model. So it should feel more like a hotel, or it should feel homier. And that's why we call ourselves communities.
Does your approach at Villagio, is there a different approach that you take towards memory care, or is that basically it, what you just said?
Well, what we like to say is it's person-centered living. So everybody comes with a different set of needs, whether that's care needs or social needs, physical needs, and we want to meet them where they're at. And that's really the important thing when you're looking into memory care for your loved one. You want to know, like, hey, is this community going to feel like home to them? Are these people going to be people they want to chat with and talk to? Can they communicate here? Are they going to be encouraged to be active here by participating in a painting class or an exercise class? And so really Villagio's approach is that we have a very strong budget for programming. We have a structured day, just kind of like you think about children, that they need structured environment, and going to school helps them with that. This is what the day at Villagio looks like. The caregivers are helping someone get ready for the day, get dressed or showered. They're coming to breakfast, and then they get right into programming. And so part of the issue with dementia can be switching days for nights, or we hear about sundowning. And so a structured day of programming helps facilitate that. We're awake and we're active and we're engaged during the day. We sleep better at night, and that is helpful. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you have a ratio for workers per guest? What do we call them, guests? Or
we call them residents.
Residents, forgive me. Okay.
No, that's
residents.
fine.
Right.
We call them residents. Yeah, so the ratio changes depending on the resident's needs. So for instance, if we moved in a bunch of people that had very high care needs, like 2 people need to assist them, they're a heavier lift, or they need shower assistance hands-on, then we would be hiring on more care staff to help with those people. And, after COVID, we saw a lot of people move in that were experiencing memory loss, but physically they were still very fit. So we think that has something to do with isolation. People were isolated in their homes, and they were still very physically fit, and they were very healthy. They may be on very few or no medications, but their memories just declined rapidly because they weren't engaging with people, or they were very social, and then they couldn't be social for a few years. And so that had an impact on their memory. So we have quite a few residents that are walking around, that are very communicative, that can do a lot of walking, exercising. We'll walk to Capriana's koi pond with our residents at Villagio and feed the fish. There's a lot of great things going on physically, but mentally, this is the appropriate environment for them.
Now, you mentioned how previously about how people can also move. They're going to South Carolina, they can move it.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum stay? I mean, I'm guessing once you move in there, you want them to be there to get I don't know. Is there a minimum stay?
Yeah, no, you hit on a really important part. You don't want to transition somebody with memory loss to a lot of different places, because they do call that the trauma of transitioning. So if somebody's coming from home, it takes a little time to get them situated and learning that new routine. So it's our advice just to anybody that you don't want to move someone around too many times with dementia. But everything in our community at Villagio, it's all month to month, and you'll find that at any memory care. So if you're moving someone to South Carolina and you say, hey, she's going to go live with my other brother, you need a 30-day notice. That's it.
That's not bad. And how does Villagio's memory care program support residents get cognitive, physical, and emotional well-being? I think you kind of touched on that already, huh?
Yeah. So our activities program, and we have an activity director. It is her sole purpose to plan fun things for our residents, and she's got assistants that help her execute that. And
Julie McCoy for our older audience.
There you go. Yeah.
Love Boat. Sorry.
No. She's good. Yeah, that's her job. It's throwing parties. It's making sure everybody's engaged. And so we're looking at the whole person. So it could be spiritual. So we know we have a church that comes and does communion in the community. It could be social. It could be physical. It could be the mind. We're playing trivia. We're doing things that are going to make people feel successful. And really in memory care, it's like small moments of success. The whole day may not be perfect, or the whole week may be rough, but there might be moments of joy. And so that's what we're looking to accomplish.
It sounds to me, though, it's safe to say that you actually probably extend a lot of people's lifespans.
Yeah, there are people.
I guess that's obvious. Sorry.
No, you're right. I think living in a community life, and I've experienced this with seniors that I know are part of my family. Like, if you're busy and you have a purpose, and a lot of families come to us and they'll say, look, like, I'm a daughter. My mom's living with us. She's got dementia, but I've got these kids I've got to tote around to soccer practice and do all these things. Like, I don't have time to sit and chat with my mom about things that happened 40 years ago. Well, we do,
Right.
and we want to hear her stories. And so she's feeling the sense of purpose in our community. Or she has a fabulous captive audience of other residents that don't remember that she's told the same story 17 times that day. So it can be really a great relationship for people to benefit from on both sides.
Yeah, in fact, I know the social events there are pretty extravagant. In fact, I read somewhere, and you can tell me about this, that actually STDs are a lot more common than people might think in these senior care communities.
Yes, that is true. And actually, I did a project on this in college, and it's true. If you think about it, there is no risk of getting pregnant, right? So that risk is gone, and folks maybe are looking for companionship, or they're looking, they've lost a spouse and they want somebody. And we find a lot of people, we've had marriages come from Capriana. We have boyfriends and girlfriends at Villagio. It could amount to nothing that's necessarily sexual, but it also could. And they still have those rights as a resident in our community. As long as everything is safe, families are, on board and okay with it. But we see that quite a bit. People still have that urge. It doesn't go away. And practicing safe sex, even as a senior, very important.
We're both blushing right now.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I'm kidding. So now what about the memory care, though? Have you ever had good stories where, I don't know, if a spouse forgot they were married?
Yes, that does happen.
Oh, goodness.
Absolutely. Yeah, people do. Their spouse may come to visit them all the time, and they may also have a boyfriend in the community. That does happen. And we have a situation like that going on right now. So really what we do is we identify, that interest. We let the families know, make sure everybody's on the same page. Most families are they're okay with that. It's important that they've found some companionship in the community. And we just make sure that everything is safe for the residents. It's not causing any distress, but they do have that right. They still have that right.
Well, I guess it's understandable. So what about end of life? Oh, what a segue. We talking about that, and then we're going to talk
Creating
about
life and end of life.
Yeah, boy, golly. So what about end of life care? How does that aspect work there at Villagio?
Yeah. So if somebody is living at the community for a prolonged period of time, and we hope that they are and they're thriving, but when they start to decline, then our staff is there, our nurses, our med techs, our caregivers are there, and they're kind of watching that happen. It might look like, hey, he's only eating 50% of his plate now at lunch, and he used to be, or he's losing weight, or this medication's not working like it should have been, or maybe, heaven forbid, someone has a fall or gets a diagnosis of cancer or something. They can continue to live at the community, and they can get palliative or hospice care. So hospice care is a great Medicare benefit that more people should be able to take advantage of as they're dying. then they can get extra care, and they cover things like medications, incontinence supplies, stuff like that. That can be a hardship maybe on a family, but they'll come in with nurses. They'll provide shower aids. They do regular checks on someone. They monitor their health as they may be passing.
On that note, you mentioned nurses. Do you have doctors and nurses there 24/7 or?
Yeah, we do have nurses on our staff. They're not there 24 hours a day because we just don't have that need right now. We don't have residents that maybe need like diabetic checks all throughout the day. But we also have a concierge doctor. So he's basically on call, and he or his MPs can come into our community and check on our residents. They're here, they're at the community every week, no matter what. So they're there to see what's going on. And oftentimes that's a good option to switch unless you really love your doctor and you can stay with them, of course, after you move into a community like Capriana or Villagio. But if you want to switch to that concierge doctor, it helps when someone's having a hard time getting in and out of a car or waiting at a doctor's office, or you can't get an appointment for God knows how many months. Here's someone that's going to see your mom next Tuesday morning, no matter what.
Yeah, and you're there.
Yeah, and they're right there. And there's a lot of things that can come mobily. We have mobile dentistry. We have a podiatrist come in every other month, which is covered by Medicare. So there's a lot of cool mobile x-ray can come in. So there's a lot of things that they can do now in the comfort of that home and not displacing somebody with dementia and bringing them to a hospital or something.
So it had to be a pretty severe injury to be taken away. You guys can handle a lot.
Yeah, we can.
That's hugely beneficial.
Yeah, and again, it's just preventing that anxiety for somebody with dementia. It's really hard to take an ambulance ride, or it's hard to stay at the hospital and not know where you're at. They try to get up, they're trying to pull out IVs and things. It's tough. So we'll want to prevent that.